Hey everyone, let's start with something universal, sleep. Specifically, how medieval people slept, a routine far stranger than you might imagine. Before electricity and modern routines, medieval nights followed a segmented sleep cycle. People would turn in early for their first sleep. After about 4 hours, they'd wake for a watch period, a time for prayer, tending fires, checking livestock, or even intimacy, considered ideal as one was rested and calm. Then came the second sleep until dawn. This pattern, referenced by figures like Chaucer, may actually align with our natural circadian rhythms. The pressure for 8 uninterrupted hours only came later with factories and gas lamps. Now, imagine their beds. For peasants, a bed was often a straw pallet on the floor, itchy, damp, and shared with family, and sometimes pests. Nobles had proper frames and feather mattresses, but for most, a bed was less about comfort and more about not freezing. And they wore nightcaps, literal hats. In drafty homes, these pointed wool or linen caps were crucial to prevent heat loss. They were practical, occasionally embroidered to show status and a clear sign you were off duty. Privacy was non-existent. At an inn, you'd share a bed with strangers. Travelers slept with their purses tied to them. It was simply efficient and better than the outdoors. Bedtime was a spiritual gamble. With high mortality, people saw sleep as potential death. They recited prayers like, "If I should die before I wake," hoping to safeguard their souls before darkness. It was less about relaxation and more about last-minute spiritual insurance. Dreams were serious business, potential messages from God or demons. They were analyzed for hidden sins or prophecies and featured heavily in literature as divine plot devices. For warmth, animals weren't just pets, they were heating systems. Dogs, chickens, even pigs might share the living space, providing vital body heat in single-room homes. Monastic sleep was ascetic. Monks slept in communal dormitories on wooden planks, fully clothed in enforced silence. Waking at 2 a.m. for Matins prayer was mandatory, a cold, candlelit hour of chanting meant to dedicate the night's quiet to God. Consequently, sleeping alone was viewed as strange or unsafe. It was thermally foolish and spiritually risky. The night was for demons. Solitary sleep could even be a punishment. Some, especially the devout or wealthy, slept semi-upright, believing it aided digestion and avoided a death-like posture. Monks might sleep sitting up as a discipline against comfort and sinful dreams. Then there were the uninvited bedfellows, fleas, lice, and bedbugs. With rare baths and straw mattresses, infestations were normal. Solutions included burning herbs or sleeping with ashes, which did little for pests but certainly discouraged romance. In times of danger, like on campaign, soldiers might sleep partially armored. It was uncomfortable, like napping in a bag of cutlery, but being ready for a night attack was worth the lost comfort. Sleepwalking was deeply feared, not understood. A person wandering at night might be thought possessed or bewitched, leading to interventions ranging from herbal remedies to exorcisms. Yet medieval people learned to sleep through chaos, church bells, storms, even distant riots. Exhaustion from labor and a life of hardship made deep sleep a survival skill itself. This world of nighttime fear and superstition finds a dark parallel centuries later across the Atlantic. In the winter of 1692, Salem, Massachusetts was a tense Puritan village. After a bitter split from Salem town and amidst failed crops and war trauma, strange fits afflicted the minister's daughter and niece. The doctor, finding no physical cause, declared it witchcraft. That single word ignited panic. The first accused were outcasts: Sarah Good, a beggar, Sarah Osborne, who defied convention, and Tituba, an enslaved woman from Barbados. Under pressure, Tituba confessed and named others, blowing the accusations wide open. A special court, Oyer and Terminer, was established. It allowed spectral evidence, testimony that an accused person's spirit had afflicted someone. You couldn't disprove a dream. The afflicted girl's dramatic fits became unquestioned proof. On June 10, 1692, Bridget Bishop was hanged.
The gallows soon claimed more: the pious Rebecca Nurse, the skeptical Martha Corey, and others. Giles Corey, refusing to plead, was pressed to death under stones. By the fall, over 200 were accused, 19 hanged, and 5 died in jail. But the hysteria began to crack when accusations reached the governor's wife and respected ministers. The public turned. Governor Phipps dissolved the court, and spectral evidence was banned. The legacy was a community shattered by guilt. In 1997, Judge Samuel Sewall stood in church and confessed his error. Restitution was slowly paid, but the scar remained. Salem became a permanent warning about how fear, legitimized by authority, can become an unstoppable tyranny. This struggle for power and the demonizing of strong women has ancient roots. Consider Fulvia, born in 83 BCE to Rome's turbulent late republic. Fulvia was no ordinary Roman matron. Her first marriage was to the radical populist Publius Clodius. She wasn't a silent partner, she was politically active. After his murder, she staged a shocking public funeral, parading his body to incite riots, her first masterful use of spectacle. Widowed, she married Gaius Scribonius Curio, a key ally of Julius Caesar. Through him, she remained at the center of power, managing political networks until he too died in civil war. Her third and most famous marriage was Mark Antony. This was a power merger. Fulvia acted as his political proxy in Rome, managing alliances, issuing orders, and even appearing with him on coins, an unprecedented honor for a Roman woman. In 41 BCE, with Antony in the east, Fulvia and his brother Lucas waged war against Caesar's heir, Octavian, to defend Antony's interests. This Perusan War was Fulvia's boldest move, a Roman woman leading a civil war. After a brutal siege, they lost. Fulvia was exiled to Greece. Antony, already entangled with Cleopatra, did not come to her. Fulvia died in exile in 40 BCE, possibly from illness and heartbreak. Her death conveniently allowed Antony to make peace by marrying Octavian's sister. Her enemies then painted her as a power-hungry shrew, erasing her complexity. In truth, she was a formidable political strategist who broke every rule for Roman women, a prototype of female power that Rome tried desperately to forget. The march for justice, however, never fully erases. It finds new footing in new ages. By 1963, the U.S. civil rights movement was reaching a crescendo. The idea for a March on Washington was revived by A. Philip Randolph and led by the logistical genius of Bayard Rustin. It was a massive undertaking, organizing transportation, permits, and sound systems for what they hoped would be 100,000 people. On August 28, 1963, over 250,000 people converged on the National Mall. It was peaceful, joyful, and disciplined. Speakers from major civil rights organizations outlined demands for jobs and freedom. Then Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. took the podium. He began with his prepared text, but prompted by Mahalia Jackson's cry to tell them about the dream, he soared into improvisation. His "I Have a Dream" vision rang out, a powerful prophecy of equality that defined the day. The march created undeniable momentum, contributing to the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act and 1965 Voting Rights Act. It showed the power of collective, disciplined, nonviolent protest. Yet its full legacy is complex. Women were largely sidelined from the podium. The economic justice demands were overshadowed. Weeks later, the Birmingham church bombing reminded the world that the dream was far from won. Today, the march stands as both a monument and a mirror. It reminds us how far collective courage can move the needle of history, while challenging us to ask how much of that dream remains unfulfilled. The march wasn't an end, it was a declaration, one that